Welcome to the Hockey Writers Blackhawks Banter, a weekly show with our top Chicago Blackhawks writing crew, bringing you the latest news, rumors, trades, player grades, game results, and much more. From training camp to the playoffs, from Chelsea Dagger to the Madhouse on Madison, our team covers everything that happens with the Hawks. So get comfortable, grab a beverage. It's time for some Blackhawks Banter. Blackhawks Banter.
Hello, hockey fans, and welcome to episode 83 of Blackhawks Banter, brought to you by the Hockey Writers. As you know, the draft was this past week, and so we have a lot to talk about. The first person of our show will be a crossover segment with our colleague Melissa Boyd, who covers the Montreal Canadiens for the Hockey Writers. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me. I remember episode 1 of Blackhawks Banter. I was there, so congrats.
Yeah, Mel used to be our producer.
3.
We miss her. Actually, Mel used to be our producer behind the scenes. So it's really fun to have her back on. And we're going to obviously talk some connections. So we thought it'd be a great idea to have her on. Lots of connections with the Blackhawks and the Canadiens. So we'll get to that in a sec. But first, I'd like to say hello to my partner in crime, Brooke LoFurno. How are you doing today, Brooke?
Doing great. How are you?
Very well. I am your host, Gail Kauchak. And before we get into our topics, I would like to remind you to subscribe to the Hockey Writers Morning Skate daily newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday with the latest news and updates in the hockey world. This is a great little newsletter, very creative editors. So not only is it like informative, but it's extremely kind of like fun and cool. So if you have not done this, morningskate.io, go to there to get signed up. If you haven't already, you will not regret it. So let's get started here with topic number 1, Blackhawks Canadiens connections. But first, we obviously need to note that the Canadiens shocked the world on the first night of the draft by selecting Juraj Slafkovsky, and I think I'm saying that right, instead of the expected number 1 overall pick of Shane Wright. So Mel, why do you think that the Habs went this route, and are you happy with the selection?
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually in the building on Thursday night at the LoFurno, so I got the live reaction, and I think it was kind of leaning that way, leading up to the draft. A lot of people were talking that that's the direction they would go. And then people were wondering if they were it was just kind of like a smokescreen because New Jersey was picking second and everybody knew they wanted Slafkovsky. So it was like, are they playing poker here? Or, so I think they did a good job of preparing for the eventuality that he would get selected first overall. I wanted Shane Wright in the beginning because as everyone, or if you know the Canadiens a little bit, they've had the center ice position has been a long-standing weakness on the team for some 15 years plus, where like, oh my gosh. And so, I think fans were kind of salivating at the idea of finally having like a 1-2 punch down the middle with Suzuki and Shane Wright. Mm-hmm. And so we're like, this is obvious. Like, this is an easy thing to just lay up, just go and do it, But it is hard to ignore Slafkovsky and everything that he brings. We all saw how dominant he was at the World Championship and at the Olympic Games. He was probably the best player in both tournaments. So I think, it's one of it, and there was not really a consensus by the end. There was not really a consensus number 1 pick. So I think it was just basically you take the guy you think is the best, not only right now, but also the player you project to be the best in 4 or 5 years. So obviously that's how they feel that he's going to be the best player. And it is exciting, the prospect of having him play with Suzuki and Caulfield for the next 10 years is pretty fun. So, I think, I think at first we were all a little bit shocked, but I think it's like it's growing on us now, and we're like, okay, yeah, like this is probably a good thing. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, I hope he does well for everybody, and they're not disappointed. It's probably a lot of pressure.
Yeah, but he seems to love it, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons why they ended up going this way, because he really seems to embrace it. He loves it. Like, he loves the attention. He loves the spotlight. So we'll see how long that lasts. But for now, he's living it up for sure.
There you have it. Well, let's ask Brooke. Brooke, what do you think about Slafkovsky getting the overall pick?
I was a little shocked, only because, like you said, even like during the draft lottery, all they kept marketing was if whoever gets the first pick is getting Shane Wright guaranteed. So that was a little shocking. However, leading up to the draft, there was kind of reports on him, like scouting reports, that he had even better offensive instincts than Shane Wright. Surprisingly, even though Shane Wright was more of a center and a lot of teams like that. But from what I've heard, he could be better in that perspective than Shane Wright is. So I actually think it was a good pick. It was bold of them to go that route, but I know we'll talk about this later, but now that they got Kirby Dach, now it makes sense. If they think they have their center, then that makes sense why they wouldn't draft Shane Wright. But hey, if he has offensive instincts, which a lot of people say he does even better than Shane Wright, then I think it's a good pick. I think they could have a sneaky pick there.
It is actually pretty surprising that Wright actually fell to fourth to the Seattle Kraken, right? I thought he was going to go one, and all of a sudden he's fourth. So he's probably got a bit of a chip on his shoulder. And we'll see what happens, right? In a couple of years, we'll know, and we can all analyze this draft and figure out who went the right route and who maybe didn't. But I'm glad that you segued, Brooke, into our next topic, and that would be the Kirby Dach trade. Another big surprise of the draft: the Blackhawks traded Dach to the Canadiens for picks number 13 and 66. Brooke and I are going to get into more details of this in our second segment when we talk about more just Blackhawks. But for now, let's focus on Dach and his change of teams. So Mel, what do you think? Are you happy with Dach coming over to this team that you cover? What are you looking forward to about this?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I've always been a big fan of his. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on Blackhawks Banter, but I think I was, when that trade was announced live on the draft floor, the Bell Center went crazy. We're like, oh my God, we got Kirby Dach. This is crazy. And yeah, it does. Now it kind of makes sense, right? Because Montreal's top six looks suddenly quite a bit different and quite a bit better. And now we've added not only Slafkovsky to our young core, but now we've added Dach to our young core as well. So the fact that he was able to pull that off in a matter of 30 minutes, getting those two players is pretty impressive. And yeah, we're really excited because actually, I am specifically because I think actually Dach complements Suzuki better than Shane Wright would have, because he brings that size element, a little bit more natural skill, sort of offensive. You girls can tell me if I'm, my scouting report's not accurate, but a little bit more offensive, how do I say, skill, just natural. Shane Wright's more of a two-way, defensively responsible, and I think Dach has a bit more pop offensively and can create a little bit more. I know he's good on zone entries as well, which has been a weakness for the Canadiens. So I think, and also just the fact that he's 6'4" and has size and can play in front of the net. And I think that's something we've been missing. The team has been missing for so long. So yeah, I actually think it could be a better fit. And I'm really, really excited to see what Marty St. Louis can do. And see if he can unlock some of Dach's potential here.
I do hope that you're right. And I think we'll just both get into both mine and Brooke's answers kind of in response to your scouting approach here. So Brooke, what would you say? Are you okay with losing Dach with Blackhawks?
Yes, I am okay with losing Dach, actually. He seems like a nice guy. What I kept saying about him on Blackhawks Banter is not personal towards him. It's just the way he's played just didn't impress me. And that could be, like I said, he might be in the wrong system. He might be, have been wrongly coached. There could be a lot of things there. So like I said, he didn't impress me that much last year, but I'm sure he would say the same thing, that he didn't have a good season last year. So I do think there's no shame in the fact that the Blackhawks and Kirby Dach just weren't a good fit, because there's a lot of players and teams that just aren't a good fit. It's systems, it's whatever. We see it all the time. We've now seen it with Valeri Nichushkin. Wasn't really anything on Dallas, but is now all of a sudden a Stanley Cup champion with Colorado. So I do think it benefited both teams. I do think Kirby needed a new environment for sure. We'll see if that unlocks him. I don't know, we'll see. But like I said, if he does become a star on the Canadiens and everything gets unlocked, then the Blackhawks can talk about how they mishandled him and stuff later. But I do think it was I'm okay with losing Dach. I think it benefited both sides.
Yeah, it will make them look bad, won't it? If he all of a sudden just blossoms in Montreal. But I think I would have to agree with you, Brooke, that I'm not too concerned with the loss either. Yeah, I kept trying to give him the benefit of the doubt over and over throughout the last couple of years. And then I found it was kind of a forced exercise after a while. And I really do hope that a change of scenery is helpful. I do believe that his development was stifled and the Blackhawks did not treat him as they should have. But I also don't think that, yeah, he's got a lot of upside, but I don't think that he has those skills to, well, obviously be the number 3 overall pick, which he was purported to be. But his inability to finish is a weakness. His ineffectiveness at the faceoff dot, 34.6% career. That's not good. I don't think these things are going to really be going away wherever, no matter where he plays. There's just these certain skills that I just don't think transfer to the NHL. And, he might improve in these areas and he probably will, but I think that there will always be weaknesses. So instead of working around these weaknesses, like, for example, the Blackhawks had Kirby Dach playing wing back and forth last season. I think that they can now focus on the younger players that naturally have these skills and can offer a little bit more upside. I'm kind of talking about Lucas Reichel here. So best of luck to Dach. And I hope that he proves all of us wrong for your sake. Mel.
Goodness, I'm sorry, Mel, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. And we're like, I don't really
well, you know what? It was funny. I was looking at his stats and like his career stats so far, and I kind of went, that's it?
Yeah.
Like it feels like he was more, I'm not saying he wasn't prominent, but it just felt like he had more of an impact. And maybe I needed to watch more Blackhawks games, but it just felt, because when I looked at his stats, I go, how is that even possible? Like I know he struggled with injury and stuff too, and so like that seems like impossible. But yeah, the lack of finish is a concern. It is something that's been flagged already. But you know what? For now, I think it's okay that he's just a distributor, because Canadians are pretty strong on the wings. But they're pretty deep on the wing. So, if he could just start by just getting the puck to the right places, that'll be good.
That's a start for sure.
Absolutely. And chemistry is everything. So who knows? I'm excited. I'm excited to watch him next year and to see if there are any differences in his game. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. But I want to get to our final topic of the crossover here. And that would be to touch on the Blackhawks' new head coach, Luke Richardson. Richardson was an assistant coach for the Canadiens for 4 seasons from 2018 to 22, mostly specializing on the defensive end. So Mel, I know that assistant coaches kind of fly under the radar a lot, but what insights can you give us about Richardson's tenure?
Yeah, they do kind of. Even in Montreal, they fly under the radar a bit, but he was very, very appreciated here. By all the players, especially all the defensemen. Like you ask any defenseman that has played for him, Ben Sherratt, Joel Edmondson, Shea Weber, like it's like glowing review. Like this guy is top notch. And it's funny actually, when they announced Alexander Romanov was traded, and I got it kind of mixed up, and I thought he was going to Chicago. And so then I got all excited because I was so happy. And I was like, well, if he's going to be traded, at least he can go back, with Richardson, because him and Romanov had a really great relationship and he really helped him out. So I was kind of disappointed when I realized, oh, wait a minute, he's going to the Islanders. But, be honest with you, if Luke Richardson spoke French, he would probably be the head coach of the Canadiens right now.
Yeah, Greg brought that up last show too. Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He did do several media availabilities, like on occasion, just because everyone loved to talk to him because he's so well spoken, and like when he speaks, you're just like you want to listen. You're like this guy.
Yeah.
And he, but everyone knew that he was going to leave at some point because some team was going to offer him a head coaching position, and I'm so happy for him because he deserves it. And yeah, you guys are really got a good one, especially going into your rebuild. I think it's going to be really good. He's going to be great with the young prospects coming in. So yeah, you should be excited about that for sure.
I'm really excited to hear that. I really am. And Brooke, we talked about Richardson as I just mentioned on last week's banter. But based on anything you've heard or even Mel's insights, what do you think? What are you most excited about with when Richardson becomes head coach?
I mean, like we said, we still have to see him coach. That's what we were talking about last time too. Like a lot of things can sound good, but who knows? But I do actually have a good feeling about him regardless. And I think something that Mel said, but also what we talked about too, and I think Mel just kind of confirmed that, is how receptive players seem to be towards him. As a coach, you have to have players that respond to you. And for whatever reason, I think we talked about 1,000 times over, for some reason, the Blackhawks weren't receptive to Colleton. They somewhat were to King, I think, in the beginning, especially, but then that kind of fizzled out. So obviously, yeah, they need someone that players will respect and get something out of. And that seems to be the case with the Canadiens. And I guess if we're talking about defense and stuff, we saw how the Canadiens played during their Stanley Cup final run. They were probably one of the best defensive teams in the whole playoffs. So that is something that sticks out too. They played a great defensive game. And obviously, as I said, players bought into that. So I think that's the key here, is that players will listen. Players will buy into what he says. And no one has a bad thing to say about this guy, which is good too. No one has a bad thing. Players, coaches, no one has a bad thing to say. So that's a plus too.
He's also a former player, so he relates to them really easily. And don't forget, he actually coached the Canadiens when they beat Vegas, because Dominique Ducharme had COVID, and so he was out. And so it was Richardson who was running the bench, and they won, so I was very excited when I saw that announcement. It was good for him.
Thank you for bringing that up, because I had actually forgotten about that. And you mentioned Derek King. I just want to throw this in, by the way. On Monday, he was announced as an assistant coach, so he will be on the Blackhawks staff, which is kind of exciting, because I think we all kind of fell in love with King last year too. So we got Richardson and King. One last thing I'd like to add just about Richardson is, let's face it, you guys, we know that he's not going to be coaching a good team. So he's going to have to be focusing on development and also just keeping the right attitude in that locker room and with the players while they're doing a whole lot of losing. So it's going to be a tough challenge. It's really going to be a tough challenge, but I'm excited. I think the Blackhawks thought they had the right man for the job, and I'm super excited for how he handles it all. So
yeah, and that's the other thing. He seems very receptive to a rebuild, which is very rare. Coaches usually are like, I want to go to a winning team, but he seems very open to everything, which is a good quality too.
Yeah.
Because right. I mean, I think that he had that opportunity. He's been an assistant coach forever, and now he's got this opportunity to like take a team under his wing and like start at the bottom and work his way up. So I think he sees that as a big challenge. So thank you for those insights. That's great. That will do it for our crossover segment. Be sure to join us at our draft recap segment, which where Brooke and I are going to dissect the Blackhawks 2022 draft picks and trades. And thank you for joining us, Mel. It was awesome.
Pleasure.
Awesome. And let's see. I think the Hawks play with the Habs on November 25th. It's not for a while.
I was wondering when Kirby's return to Chicago would be. So
I'll probably get a hat trick.
I would circle that date.
Kirby will get a hat trick.
I'm actually doing I'm working on an article for, basically just trying to highlight the season and what games to circle. And that's definitely going to be
well, you could just highlight all the games for your former players, since there's so
Exactly.
Right?
It'll be a reunion.
It'll be like 15 of them,
the whole season.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Mel. Thank you so much to Brooke. You guys have a great time, and we'll see you in our second segment, everybody.